Usually when we're talking about red flags, we're saying, okay, you know what, these are signs that this person is so bad for you, the relationship will not work, they cannot work, so run. Exit the relationship, run as fast as you can, and don't look back. But I want to say, don't run just yet. There's a good and a proper use for red flags to help you in yourself and in your relationship. So red flags are not all bad. Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Samantha and this is Relationship Sam. On this channel, we sit down to talk about all things relationships, love, dating, and marriage. And I always say, if you feel it, we talk about it. Today, we're going to be talking about red flags. Actually, we're going to be talking about how to use red flags the right way, or the purpose of red flags, or the good that you can find or use red flags for. So my argument in this video, and what I would like to bring across and for you to understand and to kind of come in agreement with me by the end of this video, is that red flags are not all bad by themselves, but we can use red flags to help us and to help ourselves and to help each other in relationships. So red flags are commonly signs of an underlying problem that indicate or show that you will not be able to have a healthy relationship with this person, or this person might not be able to have a healthy relationship. So interestingly, a few months ago, I had a discussion along these lines with one of my friends, the First Lady, and she was talking about how everybody has red flags, because nobody's perfect and everybody has red flags. The real reason red flags are an issue is that later on, when people are in marriage or they've been married for a while, they start having problems and troubles in their marriage, and then they talk about red flags and they say, oh, these red flags were always there, or I didn't see the red flags, or I didn't acknowledge the red flags. So I never really considered it this way. And it took me a while to actually get it and to digest it, and then to come to this point where I'm like, actually, yes, red flags are good. It's good for us to see and to observe red flags. What's wrong or what's bad for us is to ignore red flags, dismiss red flags, or sweep them under the carpet when we nurture red flags or when we rationalize red flags. So what I mean by rationalizing red flags, I just want to give you guys a quick example, is if a man beats you up or hits you while you're in a dating relationship, and then you start saying like, oh no, it's not his fault, I made him angry, I said what I shouldn't have said. Yes, you could have been wrong and there could have been a better way for you to say and to do things, but that's actually rationalizing a red flag, because at the end of the day, what he's exhibiting is a character flaw. So this is how we're misusing red flags, or failing to acknowledge the real and good purpose of red flags. See, we're supposed to be observant, especially in our dating time. We're supposed to observe the other person's character and benchmark it against our own character and our own standards. Red flags are essentially signs of an underlying problem. So it's good that you identify red flags, especially early on in your relationship. The first thing you can do when you observe red flags is to actually speak and communicate with the person. Let them know, because some people, or sometimes people, are not self-aware. So let the person know what this thing that they are doing or exhibiting means to you, how it makes you feel, or what it comes across as to you. Because we're different people, different backgrounds, different mindsets. Everything is, even just the fact that somebody's a male and a female, we are different beings altogether. So sometimes someone is not really or fully aware of what they are doing, or fully conscious of the impacts that their actions, their words, their behavior or character will have on you. By doing this, you're actually giving the person an opportunity to change or to adjust or to accommodate you and your feelings. And if they don't, if they fail to do that, or they're not changing, or it's just an inherent nature, there's a clash of your personalities, you're evidently incompatible, then you can use red flags for the second thing. The second thing is to actually sit down with yourself and establish and determine what you're willing to cope with. Should this person never change? If you marry this person and that habit remains, can you cope with it? Can you deal with it? So before you even run away from a relationship, you can actually sit down and say, is this something that I personally can deal with? Because nobody's perfect and nobody is ever going to be perfect. But you have to make a decision within yourself to say, am I comfortable with my man hitting me all the time? Am I okay with him speaking to me like this for the rest of my life? Do I want to be in this kind of relationship? So that's the second thing that you can do with red flags. And I wanted to say this. Sometimes being beaten up might be something that a woman can cope with. And what you can personally cope with and deal with varies from person to person again. I personally wouldn't want somebody who speaks badly to me because I'm very sensitive and I'm really responsive to how people speak to me, for example. So that for me might be a big deal, even though the man is not able to provide, or maybe he's a little bit stingy. Maybe I might be willing to deal with his stinginess, but I can't deal with the verbal and emotional abuse. Meanwhile, another woman may not be able to deal with a man who cannot or is not willing to provide for her physical and financial needs, but she's willing and able to deal with this man beating her up. I actually have had this conversation with real life women. I can't mention their names, but I've had a conversation with a girl similar age to me, and she says she's actually really comfortable and she's okay with somebody beating her up. She's okay with a man expressing that strength and just shaking her up and expressing his manhood by physically assaulting her. She's okay with that and she can cope and she can deal with that. But there are other things that she cannot cope with and that she cannot live with. So this is really how different we are. So what may be a red flag to you or to me may not be red flag the other way around. So this is one of those things that you do for yourself and you do by yourself. Just really sit down and establish who you are, what you're after, what your standards and what you accept, what you expect and what you will accept. What you expect is usually what you accept. So just get to know yourself, and then in this particular time, use the red flags to decide which direction you'll go with the relationship. So the first thing you can use red flags for is to actually have a conversation and to deal with the issue. Red flags are an indication of an underlying issue. So you have an opportunity to resolve the underlying issue. And the second thing you can use red flags for is to determine what you can cope with, is to know what you're up against. Can you deal with this issue? Should the problem persist and should this person not change? Is this something that you're willing to live with for the long term, in the long run? Is this something that you're personally okay with? Not the other person, but are you personally okay with this particular problem? So once you're done with observing and analyzing, the third thing that you can use red flags for is to make a decision, to decide to stay or to leave. If it is something that you're willing and able to live with, if you know that this thing, I can cope with it, I can deal with it, it's not a big deal, it's something that I can live with, then you will make a decision to stay in that relationship. But don't now have a hope and an expectation that this person will change. It would be great if they changed and God dealt with that person in their own heart and then they did change in the long run. But if you are deciding to stay after having seen or observed and analyzed that this is a red flag, you've talked about it and the person's not changing or they don't want to change, but you still want the relationship and you still value being with them above what this problem is, then you decide to stay. Or you'll decide to leave the relationship, as most people do. They use red flags to leave a relationship, and it's okay and they're fully justified to leave a relationship because I can't deal with this. I can't cope with this. I'm looking into my future. I'm looking into 5-10 years from now, and I realize that I cannot live with this. This is not something that I'm okay with, because if I decide to stay with the person, I love the person, but if I stay with you, I want to be secretly hoping that you're going to change. I'm secretly praying that this thing goes away. And there's nothing wrong with praying and hoping and believing that this thing will change, but there is something wrong with you lying to yourself and thinking that it's going to change, and meanwhile it doesn't. And then later on, we see that somebody's resenting another person. I haven't heard this saying in a while, but there's a saying I used to hear all the time, and they said, a man marries a woman hoping that she won't change, and a woman marries a man hoping that he will change. So on the wedding day, man is like, oh, I've scored and I pray that she'll never change. And meanwhile, the woman is like, oh, this is the beginning of the journey. This is where I start changing him. At least I have the commitment, so now I can start changing him. Anyway, guys, we know how that story ends, but I hope that you have enjoyed this video and you found it really valuable. And I hope that these 3 things that you can do and use red flags for will be a blessing to you and will help you to harness your relationships and to make a conscious and logical decision of what to do in your relationships. Don't be so quick to run. But what I do really hope for you, especially for us as ladies, is not to be overly emotional when we're observing these red flags. Come up and freely talk about what your expectations are, what your standards are, what your desires or the desires of your heart are. Don't wait till you're in the commitment or he's made a commitment to marry you to now try and change the man, because first of all, it's unfair, and secondly, you could be punishing yourself for life if this person never changes. Again, I really hope that you've liked the video, and if you have, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Also look forward to chatting with you, so chat with me in the comment section below. If it makes sense to you, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If it doesn't make sense to you, if you don't agree, again, I always look forward to our conversations. Iron sharpens iron. If you want to talk to me more privately, you can do so. Catch me on Instagram at @SamanthaDika. I really look forward to seeing you in the next video, so be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.